Know your history, yeah. Know the history. We went from kings to slaves enduring the foulest acts. You know it gets to me in schools, the limited teaching of African American history. Like back then was a mystery. 400 years of misery. It should be celebrated constant what we've accomplished, but it's not. Adding insult to injury. So here's a fine time to rewind time, highlighting all we've endured within a timeline. Cause what had me resort to rapping these thoughts? All the history we have that's not actually taught. Like we weren't African kings and queens, showing prominence, dominance, confidence in different parts of the continent. Shaka Zulu, King Tut, Menelik, Idris Aluma, Bahazin Baweli, Askia the Great, Mansa Musa. Way before the invasions, we lived amazing. Egyptians created one of the greatest civilizations. Many innovations, their minds were quite prolific, from building the pyramids to writing their hieroglyphics to inventing ink pens, making paper from papyrus, being skilled in geometry and medical science, to inventing the clock, the calendar, and the lock, and so many contributions we humans consider timeless. Now fast forward to the slave trade, which was tragic. Over 12 million sailed through the Middle Passage. From the 14 to the 1800s, what happened with Africans makes me sick to my stomach, cause they experienced damnation from horrific slave ships to the plantations. Frightening, shipped to America in 1619, cause Portuguese captured Angolans and give them a chance to surrender. Forced on a ship that was stolen by English pirates on the White Lion and sailed for a land in Virginia, Jamestown colony. The fact showed tobacco was the town's commodity, the prize of the land. The industry took no time to expand, so they exploited slavery to supply the demand. In 1641, to my surprise, Massachusetts was the very first to have slavery legalized. As the numbers increased, slave owners that feared the most, that enraged slaves would start to engage in revolts, like fighting with poor white servants that were hell-bent. For 1676, Bacon's Rebellion, making colonizers have the same goal, to even more restrict slaves with slave codes. 1688, on the clock they were working round for a Quakers petition to end slavery in Germantown. Here's something you don't know: 1739's rebellion at Stono, South Carolina. The result from the revolt: on the battling field, 25 colonists, over 50 Africans killed, and they left the scene gory, causing the Negro Act of 1740. In 1776, we played a role in America's independence, Revolutionary War, fighting against the British on both sides of the field, fighting for their own freedom. Told if they fought, they'll be set free cause they need them. After the revolution, the U.S. Constitution considered all slaves just 3/5 of a human, avoiding conflict, so slave states wouldn't have a higher population and more influence in Congress. Straight whack, ludicrous slave facts, like 1793's Fugitive Slave Act, that basically states any slave that escaped their enslaver was made to resist the slave catchers and taken back. I swear the devil was plotting on our demise. Things got worse with the need for cotton on the rise. Its raw production functioned with lots of men then. Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, which separated seeds with ease, but put higher needs on slaves, so the overseer was pleased. More cotton meant more profit, so bet when the day was over, slaves were beaten if they weren't meeting their daily quota. From this newest commodity, slaves built this country and its hugest economy. In conditions they definitely weren't a fan of, whipped, raped, depleted, and treated in any manner. Most had enough, like those who rose up in 1811's rebellion down in Louisiana. Hundreds of armed slaves made way to plantations for more slaves to recruit. After 2 days, their rage was stopped by local troops. Some were shot and killed, others beheaded, their heads posted on poles so others won't forget it. Have you heard of the mass murder? In 1831, over 50 whites lost life due to Nat Turner and his mob of slaves who moved swiftly, influenced the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. We all heard the tales told about Harriet Tubman, Underground Railroad, getting slaves to the north cause the South had lots of tension. The plot had thickened with 1857's Dred Scott's decision. The effects of slavery grew tension a little more in 1861 with the start of the Civil War. In 1863, Lincoln shocked the nation, freeing Southern slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation in the North. This was irrelevant till the Union beat the Confederates, ending the war and slavery. But all weren't advised until the last slaves were freed on June 19th, 1865.